What lesser-known accessories do you use with your computer? For example, any special mouse, keyboard, ring, headset, that has made a significant impact on your workflow. Gaming wireless headphones, not for gaming but for video conferencing. Bluetooth headphones are universally terrible for video conferencing because the Bluetooth standard sucks and requires downgrading to telephone audio quality whenever the mic is enabled. Plus terrible latency. Gaming wireless headphones that come with their own dongle completely fix these issues and are perfect for video conferencing. Someday the Bluetooth ecosystem will get their act together, but it'll be a while and you'll have to buy all new devices because it's a standard made by hardware manufacturers for hardware manufacturers. Also, some of those magnetic USB charging cables to keep them charged without fiddling with plugging in cables. The nice thing about these is that the same magnetic cable can attach to both micro USB and USB-C dongles, so you can charge any small device with one cable. And the dongles are tiny, so you just put them into all your devices and leave them there, super convenient. Don't use magnetic USB adapters. They run a decent risk of frying your device. The USB-C spec was not designed to have the connection broken in that way. You will have no issues 99% of the time, but you will eventually have that time when your device gets fried. It takes a very precise design and a lot of clever engineering to have a high current power connector with tiny pins be able to break without having the ground be the last connection to be broken. It is also easy for the magnetic connector to short the power into a data line, and because it doesn't connect in the proper pin order and has no mid-plate, it has no mitigation against arcing. See this picture. Notice how some pins are longer than others. They are designed that way so that they connect first and disconnect last, so that ground is always established before and after other pins connect. This prevents connecting and disconnecting a cable from frying your electronics. The midplate shall be connected to the PCB ground with at least 2 grounding points. The midplate shall be designed such that plug pins A4, A5, A6, A7, A8, A9, and B4, B5, B6, B7, B8, B9 do not short to ground during the connector mating process with an effective 6.2 mm receptacle shell implementation. 1. 0. USB Type-C Spec R2.2, October 2022, Figure 313, page 65. 1. USB Type-C Spec R2.2, October 2022, Section 3.2.1 Interface Definition, page 43. Came here just to mention magnetic charger adapters. I bought a cheap set off of Amazon, and then realized I also wanted non-USB-C tips as well. While the brand I bought wasn't selling them, turns out that the same factory manufacturing them also manufactures for other brands, and so unlike the third page of Amazon results, I found another product using the exact same tips, but this time also including other types. Greater than also, some of those magnetic USB charging cables to keep them charged without fiddling with plugging in cables. I've had MacBooks for 2 decades. Until my recent purchase of an Apple Silicon model, they all used proprietary power connections, first barrel, then MagSafe, on one side of the computer. Since I needed a power supply in 2 different places, this always meant obtaining a second Apple charger. My current MacBook is the first I've owned that also allows charging from any USB-C port. For the first time, I can use a small USB charger I already owned, a 27 watts unit in my case. Yes, the computer does charge under use, albeit slower than with the Apple charger. Charge on the opposite side of where the Apple charger goes, which is very useful for my aforementioned multiple location usage pattern. Still have an auto-detachable connection by, like you, using a magnetic USB connection, is what I use. Odd, I went the opposite way, a full-blown high-end Bluetooth headset. I'm also a field warrior as well part of the time, So on the road audio is important to me and my callers. The Blue Parrot P450 XD is an amazing headset. Did I buy it at a truck stop? Yeah. But I've been on an audio call where I literally stood in front of a box fan with my face against the fan and nobody could hear the fan in the microphone at all. The noise cancellation on the mics is downright amazing and everyone heard me loud and clear over fans, data center environments, the works. This is a real MVP of the work from home life. Some of them, like the Arctis I have, will present two devices to the computer, so you can have music playing quietly under a meeting, but still have voice for calls at a good quality and controlled independently. After working for almost 3 years with a bare-bones work-from-home setup, stand-up desk plus laptop, I finally invested recently in some equipment to improve upon my crappy laptop camera, and a room with little natural light. The difference in my video call quality is night and day. This is what I got. A Keylight, Godox ES45, to throw a bunch of bright, natural white light at my face. Attached to the desk and positioned, tilted above my head so that it doesn't blind me. I don't notice it when it's on. A mic, Razer Siren Mini, on a boom arm attached to the desk, positioned above my face, just out of the camera's sight. Nice, clean sound? Would sound even better if I were speaking directly into it, but I don't like having the mic visible. Repurposed an old mirrorless camera, Sony RX100 III, into a webcam for that sweet HD quality. Way better than any of the webcams out there. Needed to buy a Camlink 4K card and connect it via micro HDMI less than, greater than HDMI cable. Required a dummy battery kit to connect to AC and some setting tweaking, but it works beautifully. Connected the camera to the Keylight stand with a clamp mount. Yes, I love this. Most people don't realize this setup, but I feel it is very important. I have a normal soft and warm light, not flat white, that I can flick quickly, point upwards that bounced off the walls. An additional floodlight in standby for interviews and other more important meetings. A well-mounted setup with a dedicated microphone is a time saver and no-brainer. I'm not too keen on the video and think is lesser important than audio, but have been thinking on that too. I invested in an extended mount for a separate display, mic, and lights. I has paid off pretty well. I got a Seedry speaker mic array, and have been really happy with it. At first it wasn't working at all, but then I did a firmware update on it and it's been great since. It's a 4-mic array with speaker output, and it does some fancy processing to remove the output played from the speakers and uses the 4 mics to detect voice location and zoom in on it. I went from terrible echoey voice to rock solid. Then I got a 16 inches MBP, which is what I mostly use now for video conferences because I upgraded my Linux work laptop and switched to Wayland and can no longer do screen sharing. Greater than, a Keylight, Godox ES45, to throw a bunch of bright, natural white light at my face. Attached to the desk and positioned, tilted above my head so that it doesn't blind me. I don't notice it when it's on. I found a sun lamp aimed away or behind something helped me a lot. So much so that I got one of those kitchen countertop hydroponic kits that's time to go off usually when I start work. The sun lamp plus morning coffee perk me right up. Plus herbs and stuff. Unfortunately the RX100 MI isn't supported, but the Mark IV and over 30 other Sony cameras work with its Imaging Edge webcam utility, so you can use the camera directly as a webcam without the need for a capture card or HDMI cable. Greater than would sound even better if I were speaking directly into it, but I don't like having the mic visible. I've found that the sound is better if I keep it off to the side out of frame instead of above. Especially if you have the setting to make it directional and aim it towards your mouth. You can speak directly to the camera and it picks it up. If you can, sit at a south-facing window for natural light. You can also buy a flexible wire-rimmed light diffuser used for photography. If you can get the right diffuser for your window frame, it should flex into the frame and stay in place, unless the window is open and it can't ease the wind. The problem is that all the old digital cameras I have at hand are either too old or not high price segment enough to support any sort of looping video through, which is a shame. I have 2 to 3 of those, and while they're not awesome, the video would totally beat every laptop webcam. I have a heating pad under my keyboard which keeps my hands warm in the winter. Was like $20 on Amazon, and I can't even begin to describe how amazing it is, since I was really tired of always having a mug of hot water, tea, coffee to hold, and didn't want to keep the heat on my house super high when I could just wear a sweatshirt and be fine except my fingers. I have a heated mouse specifically for this same issue. Was experiencing arthritic symptoms in my fingers and tied it back to my extremities getting cold while working. There looks to be only one company that makes a heated mouse. If they ever fold up shop, I don't know what I'll do. Any inexpensive heating pad will work, but there are some things to look out for. Use a few Velcro adhesive dots to keep the pad from moving around on your desk. You will probably need to put a piece of stiff cardboard over the pad since most mice need a very flat surface. Choose a pad that allows you to conveniently adjust the heat. Cover the mouse and your hand with a towel, but be aware that it's easy to let the mouse get too warm. Look for a pad with auto shut-off. A cheap mouse may stop working if it gets too hot, but let it cool down and it should start working again in a few minutes. My shop is typically about 55 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter, but this makes it very comfortable to use a mouse. I've done this for many years and never killed a mouse. I've ordered something similar but 12 volts for car. I find my feet freeze on longer trips, and so since I like driving barefoot, cars come with heated seats, steering, armrests, mirrors, wipers, why not mats? I wouldn't have thought they were lesser known, but I've been surprised how many people don't know about today's cheap, portable external monitors. They're essentially laptop panels with a USB-C plus HDMI board. $100 to $150-ish and easily found in 15.6 inches and 13 to 14, 1080p or 2K. All the ones I've tried have 2 USB-C ports, mini HDMI, and speakers. This all depends on what USB-C ports your machine actually has and the right USB-C cables, but a single cable can do power and display from the laptop. Or plug the monitor into USB-C PD source and the same cable will charge the laptop and run the monitor. Mine even has a third USB-C OTG port for USB 2.0 speed devices. Good for a second screen on the go or debugging single board computers. I'm surprised no one has mentioned repurposed iPad Screen Zero. I just received mine, and it's fairly nice given the price. It uses a 4:3 aspect ratio, but that's fine for secondary content when working on my laptop. It also works great for retro gaming as indicated in the link I shared. I only wish it were in the original iPad case and I could use an iPad stand. As it is, it's housed in a photo frame with cutouts for the new buttons. I selected the USB-C option for mine, which is how I connect it to my laptop. Very happy for $80. Zero? What is the contrast/brightness like with these? I've always wanted one for working with 2 screens on the go, but the ones I've seen in public never seemed to get bright enough. In a cafe or other bright environment they seem to reflect everything around them similar to the way my MacBook screen does, which makes it hard to see anything. I'm speaking only from limited time seeing them from afar, though I've not actually sat in front of one to use or test out in person. Do you have a specific model you can recommend? I searched a brighter one out, especially 300 nits, read reviews, etc. Paid €200. What I got absolutely sucks, definitely not 300 nits, glitches half the time I try to use it, doesn't remember my settings. When I finally got around to return it, I discovered the company no longer exists lol. For people complaining about Asus offering it did look bad on paper with its crappy latency and even crappier brightness, so I never pulled trigger on one. I did find some decent options on AliExpress, though. Got two monitors from there, one 15-inch and one 17-inch. Both run in 2K 120Hz. Brightness is okay, never had a problem in a brightly lit room, but I have not tried them out in the sun, like for working on the beach type of situation. When not traveling, I use the smaller one on a VESA arm. The smaller one has screw holes, in vertical orientation for extra screen space next to my 4K larger monitor. And I use the larger portable monitor for sheet music on my piano, connected to Raspberry Pi. Ordered both from Hi-Fi Store, pretty happy so far. The wireless second screen feature on Samsung tablets works surprisingly well on Windows for this too. I haven't found the need to use it much though. I don't really bring a laptop when I travel anymore. As a laptop user due to portability constraints, I definitely get their appeal, especially the ones that make a 3-screen setup. But they are still a bit too pricey for my tastes and fiddly with the cables. An Elgato Stream Deck, but for general purposes. Basically imagine having 15 physical buttons to use with any kind of actions, shortcuts, macros etc., but you have a visual feedback too. It's pretty great. I know there are alternatives like the Adafruit RP2040, but the visual knobs make the Stream Deck much better emo. I have a small Stream Deck, 6 buttons, and although I don't have a lot of inspiration, I found a few really useful use cases. Global mute button, plug-in audio mute. This is amazing and the most useful action I've set up. Screenshot tool. I'm on a Mac and always forget the combination for opening the capture tool, so a physical button is nice to have. Term button. It just opens a terminal, or make it appear if there's already one open. Clock, because when using full screen mode, Mac OS doesn't show the clock. Weather, because it's cool. Specific to iTerm, a split vertically button, because after years of use, I can't remember how to split iTerm. Specific to Firefox, a macro to write this text method options domain, 30com, because I'm tired of typing it again and again in the network div tools filters. I bought one of these a couple of years ago with plans to use it for macros, shortcuts etc., but gave up using it because I found the system for writing your own plugins and generally configuring it was beyond awful. It felt like a designed by committee horror show. The complexity to just set the button image and make it run a bash script when pressed was insane. But I really wanted it to work. I can think of tons of useful buttons I want to have on my desk. Maybe I will give it another try. Can you tell me, have you got any tips, found any good third-party tools for working with it? Maybe I just went down the wrong rabbit holes. I was looking at getting one but couldn't stomach the price for an unknown benefit since I wasn't sure if I'd use it. I ended up using Touch Portal One, and put a phone on an old stand, and it pretty much does everything I want to do. Integrates with Teams with mic on/off, hand raise, and reactions, and I created some nice graphs for CPU/PU/disk load and a UTC clock for when I'm not in a meeting. Desktop app is free and phone app is like $13 or so. Works on Windows/Mac OS and Linux support is apparently coming. It's probably clunkier than a Stream Deck, but it's a fraction of the price. 1. I use a Stream Deck daily to control AV production gear using BitFocus Companion. I am constantly surprised at the range of supported equipment. Complex operations that used to take 3 people can be done by a single person. For a basic example, audio operator fades out background music and brings up video playback audio channels. Lighting operator puts lighting into video state. Video operator switches from holding slide input on screen to video playback input. Is now one button? Same equipment, same production value. One button. Boop. Go. Admittedly, it takes some additional configuration time, but for something like a roadshow where it is the same sequence of actions every day, it ends up being a great time saver. Stream Deck can indeed be nice, but it entirely depends on the environment on what you make of it. With Windows, the official software is very well equipped with all kind of integrations and plugins, making good use of the abilities. Under Linux, not so much. You are mostly on your own with quirky tools. That said, if you can't make good use of the display anyway, then you can also just take a normal keyboard, or numpad and remap the keys. There is some software around for this, or just write your own hacky script. Repurposing old hardware is such an overlooked solution. If you don't care about LCD icons, you can use self-printed ones anyway on transparent caps. There are loads of cheap programmable keypads on AliExpress, some with knobs, some with Bluetooth, most with color LCD. The configuration software is not great, but in most cases you'll only have to suffer through that only once or twice. All for a very small fraction of Elgatos. I used a Stream Deck XL for a long time, mostly as an app launcher, but the most useful feature was a universal mute key. I used Keyboard Maestro to set up macros that would mute/unmute the microphone in any video conferencing app, with the same physical key that also indicated the current status. This worked for Zoom, GoToMeeting and Google Meet. I sold the Stream Deck XL for two reasons: I didn't need that many keys, and I found out that if you are to use a device like this at home and in the office, you really need two. The setup needs to be the same in all your workplaces, otherwise you won't bother learning to use the accessory. As for some other less typical accessories, I use a 3D connection space mouse and can't imagine doing any 3D CAD work without it. Oh, also, for many years now all my monitors are on arms. The supplied stands are always too low, and arm mounting has the additional advantage of freeing up lots of space on the desk. Does a 16-port USB hub count? In addition to the CalDigit Thunderbolt dock. By far my most used actions for triggering Dell Display Manager to switch my monitor inputs. I don't have a full KVM setup, separate keyboard, mouse but shared monitor, for my home desktop, work laptop. I also have media control buttons to control music playing on my desktop throughout the day without having to toggle the monitor. A mute button to silence things for calls is also frequently used. Finally, extra buttons to toggle some smart lights if I need to override some pre-programmed schedule. Other than that, it's been a bit of overkill. I got Stream Deck mainly to control Teams on my work computer, which is Windows 10. Teams does not have global hotkey for mute and video toggle, or on/off, and that would be compatible with the status. You can use Windows Global Mute and control video, but that status is not updated if you use Teams Mute. The Teams video conference must be active for the mute button to work. The whole point of separate keyboard is that I don't need to switch to the application. So I never got this to work well enough. What buttons/actions do you commonly use? I got one to play the DJ air horn sound effect in meetings, but between Google Hangouts, my M2 XLR device, and the Stream Deck something doesn't work quite right. I used to have a control panel, one, with physical switches for various tasks on my desk. I built it mainly to switch between multiple VPNs and switch Bluetooth audio mode between high-quality unidirectional A2DP and low-quality bidirectional HSP for meetings, mounting network drives. But once I moved from XFCE/Ubuntu to KDE, on Gen 2, later OpenSUSE, I noticed I don't need it anymore. Bluetooth switching works automatically and Network Manager has nice widget, SMB/SFTP works out of box. Now it's become a toy space rocket control panel for my kids. 1. Rearview mirror at the top of my 52 inches curved widescreen monitor. I work at home in limited space with family around and there's always activity behind me, doors opening, etc. I also work with noise-cancelling headphones. Hard to explain why, but the mirror stops my constant need to turn around to figure out what's happening. It took me a minute to hang, with fishing line and zip ties. Way less cognitive overhead and fewer self-made interruptions since implementing this. $13. Plus one. I've got a simple bike rearview mirror, like $10 off of Amazon. Has a clip-on thing, fits fine on my monitor stand. Same goal, I've got big ear-covering headphones with noise cancelling, so you feel crazy isolated and it's hard to tell if/when people, my kids, the dog, etc. is around until basically they're on top of you. Oh boy, I found/invented a tweak that I can't live without anymore. I use an MX Ergo trackball, not sure how it'd fare on a mouse, but here are the magic runes. X input set prop lib input scroll method enabled 001. X input set prop lib input button scrolling button 8. Where you change 8 to a chosen mouse button and the mouse device ID to its appropriate value from X input list apostrophe. What this does is make it so that as long as that button is being held, moving the cursor scrolls instead. It's hard to describe how much better of an experience it is versus using the scroll wheel. It's much faster, much more precise, and less finger tiring. Here's a gist of the Python script I used to set it up. Wow, that's neat. I use and love the same device, and while it feels a bit odd at first, it also feels better than using the scroll wheel. PTW, in case anyone wants to try a different button, 8 is page back. You can use X input test to listen to events and see which number each button is. Good news, it seems like the back button still works when using this. Thanks. Edit. Putting this in ~/session seems to work fine for me on Ubuntu. X input set prop pointer Logitech MX Ergo lib input button scrolling button 8. X input set prop pointer Logitech MX Ergo lib input scroll method enabled 001. X mouse for Windows lets you do this, and it's a godsend for RSI since most mouse manufacturers have a heavy trigger weight on the middle mouse click for some reason. There is also Scroll Anywhere browser extension for similar thing.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.